Humanity is obsessed with living forever. We talk about cryogenics, consciousness uploading, microchips, artificial intelligence, synthetic bodies. Billions of dollars poured into research. The wealthiest people on Earth funding labs dedicated to one goal, defeating death. But what if the secret to eternal life was written 36,000 years ago? Not in a laboratory, not in computer code, on a green tablet, the Emerald Tablet. 13 lines of text that medieval alchemists Isaac Newton and secret societies spent centuries trying to crack. 13 lines that supposedly contain the formula for the philosopher's stone, the legendary substance that can transform lead into gold and grant immortality. You learned that alchemy is pseudoscience, that turning lead into gold is impossible, that the philosopher's stone is fantasy. But what if Thoth, the author of the tablet, was talking about something else entirely? Not transforming metals, transforming consciousness, not making lead become gold, but making the mortal become immortal. In this video, you're going to discover why Thoth encoded the secret in impossible language, how as above so below isn't a motivational phrase but a technical instruction, and why the philosopher's stone isn't an external substance but a state of being. But before I reveal what the 13 lines actually say, you need to understand why Thoth wrote it this way, because he wasn't protecting the knowledge from you, he was protecting you from the knowledge before you were ready. Thoth, the Atlantean, scribe of the gods, the one who conquered death and dwells eternally between dimensions, was not an ordinary human. According to the Emerald Tablets themselves, he was born 36,000 years ago on the island of Undol, one of the 10 kingdoms of Atlantis. Undol was the center of philosophy and science, the place where the children of light taught humans the secrets of creation. These children of light, some call them Anunnaki, others call them extraterrestrials, but Thoth simply called them masters. Thoth's father was guardian of the great temple, a priest who served as bridge between the masters and humanity. And from childhood, Thoth was trained not just in science and mathematics, but in something deeper, the art of wisdom. After years of preparation, after proving his purity of intention and clarity of purpose, Thoth was taken to the halls of Amenti. Think about that for a second. The halls of Amenti weren't an ordinary physical location, they were interdimensional chambers, living archives where all knowledge from all ages was recorded, not in books, but in frequency, in condensed light. And there, in the depths of the halls, Thoth received the key of life, the secret of immortality, not as an abstract concept, as applicable technology, as a replicable process. And Thoth taught, death is not inevitable. It's a choice. It's ignorance. It's the result of living misaligned with the laws of creation. But the one who understands the laws, the one who aligns body, mind, and soul with the flow of the one force, that one does not die unconsciously. He transitions. He reincarnates with memory intact. He chooses when to leave and when to return. And Thoth did exactly this. For 36,000 years, he reincarnated hundreds of times, in different places, in different eras, always maintaining memory, always fulfilling the mission, preserve the knowledge. But then came the flood. 13,000 years ago, something catastrophic happened. Modern geologists call it the Younger Dryas, a sudden climatic event that caused massive flooding, mass extinctions, the collapse of entire civilizations. And Atlantis, the most advanced of all, sank beneath the waves. Thoth knew this was coming. The children of light had warned, and a plan was put into motion. Certain masters would be sent to different parts of the world to establish new colonies, to preserve Atlantean knowledge, to ensure the wisdom wouldn't be completely lost. Thoth was sent to a land the Atlanteans called Kem. We know it as Egypt. And with him, Thoth carried something of incalculable value, a tablet, not made of clay, not made of ordinary stone, made of emerald, or green crystal, or orichalcum, the sacred metal of Atlantis that, according to Plato, radiated its own light. And on this tablet, Thoth engraved in Hermetic language the fundamental principles of creation, the laws that govern the universe. And among these laws, encoded between the lines, was the secret of the philosopher's stone, the method of transmutation that transforms the mortal into the immortal. But Thoth didn't write it directly. He wrote it veiled. Why? Imagine giving a nuclear weapon to a child. Imagine giving control over reality to someone driven by ego, by greed, by fear. The result wouldn't be enlightenment. It would be chaos. So Thoth encoded it. He wrote it in such a way that only those who had gone through internal purification, those who had developed discernment, those who had proven their integrity over years of study, only these could actually read it, and everyone else would see just words. Beautiful words, profound words, but incomprehensible. And for millennia, that's exactly what happened. The tablet passed from hand to hand, from culture to culture, translated from ancient Egyptian to Arabic, from Arabic to Latin, from Latin to dozens of modern languages, and everyone read it, but few understood. The first recorded mention of the tablet comes from an Arabic text 1,200 years old, but that text claims to be a translation of something far more ancient. And as centuries passed, the tablet became an obsession for alchemists. Not modern alchemists playing with symbolism in weekend workshops, but dedicated alchemists, men and women who locked themselves in laboratories for decades, who risked mercury poisoning, who were persecuted by the church, who died without ever achieving what they sought. But they tried, because the promise was irresistible. The philosopher's stone, a substance that, according to legend, could do two things: transmute common metals into gold and grant eternal life. And Thoth had said both were possible, that the stone existed, that the process was described in the tablet, and so the brightest minds began to try. Isaac Newton, the man who discovered gravity, who revolutionized mathematics, who is considered one of the greatest geniuses in history, dedicated the last 30 years of his life studying alchemy. 30 years. He personally translated the Emerald Tablet. He conducted experiments. He tried to decode every symbol, every word, every instruction. And he failed. Not because Newton wasn't intelligent enough, but because he was approaching the problem the wrong way. He was looking for a chemical process, a physical reaction, a material substance. But Thoth wasn't talking about chemistry. He was talking about consciousness. So let's look at what's actually written on the Emerald Tablet. Different versions and translations exist, but the essence remains. Thoth engraved 13 fundamental principles. And the most famous, the one everyone knows, is the second line: that which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. As above, so below. You've heard this. Probably on a motivational poster, or a tattoo, or an Instagram quote. But what does this actually mean? Thoth was teaching the principle of correspondence, the law that says the universe is fractal, that the macrocosm reflects the microcosm. The laws governing galaxies also govern atoms. The patterns you see in the universe also exist within you. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are the cosmos in human form. If this is true, then the transmutation happening in stars, where hydrogen fuses into helium, where elements transform under pressure and heat, that same transmutation can happen in you, not literally, but analogously. Your consciousness can be transmuted, your nature can be refined. Your essence can be purified until what was dense becomes subtle, what was mortal becomes immortal. As above, so below. The philosopher's stone is not a stone, it's a state of consciousness. This changes everything. The third line of the tablet says, "And as all things came from the one by the mediation of the one, so all things were born from this one thing, by adaptation." Thoth is teaching the principle of unity. Everything that exists came from a single source. Modern science is beginning to touch this. Quantum physics speaks of a unified field from which all particles emerge. But Thoth knew this 36,000 years ago. And he said, if everything came from the one, then everything can return to the one. Transmutation is possible because we're not converting one thing into a fundamentally different thing. We're just changing the frequency, the form, the expression of the same essence. Lead and gold aren't fundamentally different substances. They're different arrangements of the same building blocks, and the same is true for mortal and immortal. They're not opposite states. They're different frequencies of the same consciousness. The fourth line says, its father is the sun, its mother is the moon. The wind carried it in its belly. The earth is its nurse. Here Thoth is using alchemical language, planetary symbols. Sun equals spirit, the active principle, the initiating force. Moon equals soul, the receptive principle. The nurturing force. Wind equals mind, the vehicle that carries. Earth equals body, the container that materializes. Thoth is saying the stone is created when spirit and soul unite, when the active and receptive balance. And this union happens first in mind. It's carried by thought, and then it descends to body where it finally materializes. This is not a chemical recipe. It's a map of internal transformation. Medieval alchemists spent entire lives mixing sulfur and mercury, distilling urine, heating metals, trying to create the stone externally. But they were looking in the wrong place. Thoth had warned, "You will separate the earth from fire, the subtle from the gross, gently and with great skill." Separating earth from fire doesn't mean separating physical substances. It means separating the dense, ego, attachments, false identifications, from the subtle, pure consciousness, true essence. And this isn't done in a laboratory. It's done in meditation, in self-observation, in conscious purification. The fifth line continues, "It ascends from earth to heaven and descends again to earth, thereby receiving the force of things superior and inferior." Thoth is describing the cycle of transmutation. First you ascend, you elevate your consciousness, you meditate, you contemplate, you connect with higher planes, and there, in higher dimensions, you receive, you absorb knowledge. You download higher frequencies. Second, you descend, you return to the body, you come back to earth, you bring what you received back to the physical plane. And this cycle, ascending and descending, rising and returning, expanding and integrating, is the process of transmutation. It doesn't happen once, it's repetition, it's practice, it's discipline sustained over years. Alchemists called this the great work. And Thoth said the great work wasn't creating gold, it was creating yourself. If you're feeling this is for you, write in the comments, "I begin the great work." The sixth line says, "You will thus have the glory of the whole world, and all obscurity will flee from you." When transmutation completes, when the stone is formed, when your consciousness reaches the refined state, something happens. Obscurity flees, fear disappears, doubt dissolves, confusion clears, suffering ceases. Why? Because obscurity is the absence of light. And when your consciousness becomes light, there's no more space for darkness. And Thoth taught this is true immortality, not living forever in an aging body, but completely transcending suffering, transcending the fear of death, transcending the illusion of separation. The seventh line is crucial. This is the strong force of all force, for it will overcome every subtle thing and penetrate every solid thing. The philosopher's stone, once created, has power over everything. Not power in the sense of control, power in the sense of influence, of transformation. The one who reaches this refined state of consciousness is no longer affected by external circumstances. He becomes cause, not effect, and his mere presence transforms. His frequency elevates those around him. Thoth said, "This is why true alchemists were persecuted, not because they made gold, but because their presence threatened power structures based on fear." A person who has transcended fear cannot be manipulated. A person who has achieved clarity cannot be deceived. And that's dangerous to anyone governing through ignorance. The eighth line reveals, "Thus was the world created." Thoth is saying, the process I've described is not just a method of personal transformation. It's the method by which the universe itself was created, the one separated into many. Spirit descended into matter. And now, through the great work, the process reverses. The many return to the one. Matter ascends to spirit. This is what Hindus call Lila, the divine play. God forgets being God to experience being human, and then the human remembers being God. And the philosopher's stone is the catalyst for that remembering. Now comes something few understand, something Thoth taught only to the most advanced initiates. The 7 stages of the great work. First stage, calcination, the burning, the destruction of ego. The moment where everything you thought you were is put into fire. This is not a gentle metaphor. It's real existential crisis. It's the collapse of false identities. Thoth said, "Without calcination, there is no transmutation. Without death of the old, there is no birth of the new." Second stage, dissolution. After calcination comes the melting. The ashes of the old ego are dissolved in water, in emotion. This manifests as deep crying, as emotional release, as feeling everything that was repressed for years. Third stage, separation. After dissolving everything, now you separate. You distinguish what is real from what is illusion. This is the stage where you stop identifying with thoughts. You realize, I have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. Fourth stage, conjunction. Now that you've separated and purified, you reunite, but in a new way. Thoth called this the alchemical marriage. It's the union of internal masculine and feminine. Fifth stage, fermentation. This is the stage of inspiration, of connection with the divine. Thoth taught, after conjunction, after becoming whole, the initiate is finally ready to receive light from above. Sixth stage, distillation. Even after fermentation, subtle impurities remain, so now comes final refinement. Seventh stage, coagulation. The philosopher's stone forms. Thoth taught, coagulation is when the spiritual becomes permanent in the physical. When light is no longer temporary experience, but constant state. Isaac Newton spent 30 years studying alchemy. He never created the philosopher's stone, but at the end of his life, Newton wrote something interesting. He said all the alchemical work led him to understand something profound about the nature of reality. And some historians suggest it was through alchemy that Newton developed insights that led to his scientific discoveries. The idea of gravity as an invisible force connecting everything. The idea of universal laws. All of this echoes the Hermetic principles of the Emerald Tablet, so perhaps Newton didn't fail. Perhaps he just transmuted differently than he expected. He didn't create gold. But he created knowledge. And knowledge, as Thoth always said, is the true gold. Nicolas Flamel, French alchemist of the 14th century, claimed to have discovered the philosopher's stone. Flamel was a scribe. One day, according to legend, a mysterious book came into his hands, and this book contained the complete secret of the great work. Flamel worked in secret with his wife for years, and in 1382, according to his own writings, he succeeded. He created the philosopher's stone. Flamel officially died in 1418, but there are rumors he faked his death, that he and his wife lived secretly for centuries. Truth or legend? Impossible to know. But the interesting thing is that Flamel left clues. He carved alchemical symbols on the walls of buildings he commissioned in Paris, and everything he left points to the same thing. Transmutation is internal. In 2011, a mysterious document appeared on the internet. It was called the Book of Aquarius, and on the first page it said, "The age of secrets is over. All is declared plain and simple." The anonymous author claimed to have decoded the Emerald Tablet, to have discovered the real process for creating the philosopher's stone. And unlike all previous alchemical texts full of impossible symbolism, the Book of Aquarius gave literal instructions, step by step. And according to the book, the secret ingredient of the philosopher's stone was human urine. And before you laugh, consider. Historical alchemists really did use urine, and the author created a website where people could discuss, ask questions, share progress. And surprisingly, many people tried. For years, a community of amateur alchemists followed the instructions, and then suddenly, in 2015, the website disappeared. No warning, no explanation, and no one ever revealed having successfully completed the process. But here's what Thoth actually taught about this. He said in the halls of Amenti, "The external philosopher's stone is a mirror of the internal philosopher's stone. Yes, it's possible to create a physical substance through alchemical processes that has extraordinary properties. But this substance doesn't work by itself. It only works for those who have already undergone internal transmutation. The external stone only grants immortality to those who have already achieved immortality of consciousness. And those who have achieved immortality of consciousness don't need the external stone. This is the paradox. This is why Thoth encoded the knowledge, because those who are ready for immortality won't seek it in external substance. They'll seek it in internal transformation. So what do you do now? Thoth left a protocol, simple, but it only works for those who truly want transmutation. For the next 13 days, the number of transformation, do the following. Every morning, before any other activity, sit in silence. Breathe deeply 3 times. And then aloud or internally, recite the second line of the emerald tablet. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. Don't recite mechanically, feel each word. And then ask, where in my life am I living misaligned? Where am I seeking outside what can only be found inside? Don't force answers, just observe what arises. At the end of each day, before sleep, recite again. And ask what died in me today. What part of the old me was calcinated? Do this for 13 consecutive days, and Thoth guaranteed, at the end of 13, something will have changed. Not dramatically, but profoundly, irreversibly. There's one final secret that Thoth revealed only in the last moment before an initiate left the halls of Amenti. He would say, the philosopher's stone you seek is not in the future. It was never distant. You already are the philosopher's stone. You always have been. The entire process is not about creating something that doesn't exist. It's about removing the layers hiding what was always there. Thoth taught, you don't become immortal. You recognize you always were. Because that which you are in essence was never born, and what was never born cannot die. The body is born and dies. The personality arises and disappears. But the consciousness observing all of this, that never began. That never ends. And when you stop identifying with what is born and dies, when you recognize yourself as that which always is, death loses its power over you. Not because your body won't die, but because you realize you are not the body. And if something inside you recognized these words, if something in your soul moved while listening, then leave a sign in the comments. Just write, I am the stone, because that's the recognition. That's the transmutation. Thoth the Atlantean, the immortal scribe, the one who engraved truth in emerald so it would survive all ages, taught that the end of seeking is the beginning of realization. When you stop seeking the stone, you realize you always were the stone. When you stop seeking immortality, you recognize you were never mortal. And in that recognition, transmutation completes, not with drama, but with silence, with peace, with absolute certainty, as Thoth taught, as it's engraved on the emerald tablet. The philosopher's stone is not lost, it was never hidden. It is where it always was, within you.